We have got shenanigans in Aurora, Colorado. Yeah, so you got this apartment complex, this 99-unit apartment complex. The owners, the investors, they say that there is a massive Venezuelan gang problem. Trene Aragua has just overtaken the complex, and that's why they can't control it. The city says it's because of code violations, that they're going to shut down the property. Which one do you believe? Let's get into it. Here we go. All right. So we've got just a boatload of articles for this bad boy, and they're all over the board. They're all over the board. Has a Venezuelan gang taken over an Aurora apartment building? Question mark. I mean, that's kind of our leading story. Then we go into, this is the interesting part. Aurora has Republican leadership. And so the media says conservative leaders claim without evidence that Venezuelan gangs control parts of Aurora. And we're going to check out all these stories. I just want you to see the headlines. And we've got special task force investigating Venezuelan gang ties, alleged ties to Aurora. It just makes you go, doesn't it? Yeah, I've been following this story. And I don't know what to believe. I believe there are code violations. Yep, I think there are. I think the owner has fixed some in the past, and I think they have been okayed by the city. Is this complex overrun by gangs? I don't know, but the crime numbers show that there is a fair amount of violent crime that could be attributed to gang activity. And then, we've got City of Aurora plans to quickly close apartment complex, citing substantial code violations. Are there substantial code violations? Probably. It sounds like it. But are they because the owners and the management don't want to deal with the project because they're just scared out of their wits? Because you've got this prison gang from Venezuela operating in the United States because they just ran through the southern border. It was wide open. And Joe Biden said, come on in. It's all good. Yeah, we know there's a few bad hombres out there, but we're willing to take that risk. Come on in. Cross that southern border. It's all good. Just set up shop here in the United States. Is that what's going on? It's hard to say, right? It's hard to say. Then we've got new images show filth, trash in Aurora apartment building shuttered by city. Which one is it? What do we believe? Well, let's get started. City plans to shut down the building, not for gangs, but for bad living conditions, including rat infestations, piled up trash, missing windows, and other issues. Let's just pick this one and watch a little video.
Rumors on social media make it hard to see the truth. So when we heard the rumors about 1568 Nome in Aurora being taken over by a Venezuelan gang, we had no choice but to look into it.
If you know Aurora, then what you know is we have areas in our city, unfortunately, that have been overtaken and that we have to take back.
Mayor Kaufman alluded to it, but didn't specify what area. The property investor we talked to on the phone said his attorney wrote a letter to the AG's office about the gang that had, quote, forcibly taken control.
I think it's entirely racist. I think it's a way for them to shift the focus from their lack of accountability and lack of transparency.
V. Reeves, an advocate with House Keys Action Network Denver, says it's just a way to shift the blame. When the city says it has, quote, documented substantial, long-standing, unresolved violations, code enforcers have taken these pictures of rats on the property and piled up trash. And in other tales of a bad landlord, the company won't even pay their Aurora water bill. So are there gangs? The city won't definitively say yes or no. They say they're aware of a national concern and will work to determine if there is a connection. As far as what happens next, the city says unless the property owners remedy every single documented violation, the city will designate the building as unsafe due to its condition, not because of gangs. They plan to notify residents on Wednesday that they have to be out by Tuesday, August 13th.
And there's been a suggestion.
I'm inclined to say, hey, you can have a rat-infested apartment complex that has been mismanaged be taken over by Trene Aragua from Venezuela. I'm inclined to say that could happen. And would I be wrong? What I love is, but the conservative leaders are without evidence claim that Venezuelan gangs control parts of Aurora. All right. Yeah. All right. Let's get through this one. Let's see what this one. City of Aurora is debunking claims that an Aurora apartment complex has been taken over by Venezuelan gangs. Meanwhile, they're doing an investigation to see if gang activity has gotten out of control in Aurora. Okay. While the city doesn't dismiss that there is a possibility of gang activity and they're looking for a connection, the building at East Colfax Avenue and Nome Street, 1568 Nome Street, I think it is, has issues of poor living conditions dating back years. It's my understanding that this complex is basically filled up with newly arrived newcomers, right? Newcomers, and a lot of them from Venezuela. The building near the University of Colorado and Schultz Medical Campus, operated by CBZ Management, has documented issues like rodent infestation, piled up trash, missing windows, sewer backups, and water leaks. That sounds like your standard slumlord type scenario. You know what? That's also known as affordable housing. Does it have some code violations? It sounds like it. Has it had code violations over the years? Yes, it sounds like that is the case. Has it been overrun by Trene Aragua? I don't know. That's the part where we're like, okay, but has a bunch of criminal activity that looks like gang activity happened at the complex? That answer would also be yes. So, right? I mean, what do we believe here? City says that they have exhausted efforts to work with the property owners and their property management. Despite those efforts, they have failed to address substantial, long-standing violations and have been uncooperative. All right. Okay. But the management and the owners are basically saying, hey, it's been overrun. What are we supposed to do? And this is crazy. We've fixed whatever you want fixed. And now it's just wacky, out of control. Conservative leaders claim without evidence. All right. Let's see what this one's all about. Some Aurora council members insist that areas within the city are under control of a Venezuelan gang, as police and Aurora's mayor urge them to sort fact from fiction. We have been seeing Trene Aragua throughout the United States. I mean, they're in Seattle. They're in Portland. We know they're in Portland. They're here. They are here. Let's just admit it. I mean, this isn't that much of a stretch. But the whole issue is, okay, but you've got all kinds of Venezuelans coming to the United States because of their political instability, because of violence from Trene Aragua in their home country and a bunch of other gangs, right? I mean, you've just got massive instability in Venezuela. And that's why you've had so many Venezuelans moving into the United States, because the United States has a wide open southern border, or at least it did. And, we're trying to kid everybody that borders all closed and everything's working great. Yeah. How about the last 3.5 years where millions upon millions of people were just let on in and, hey, we don't really know what you're up to. We don't really going to vet you, but come on in. It's all good. We'll give you a prepaid debit card. We'll give you housing, clothes. Here's a scooter. Go ahead and start working. The flashpoint of the conflict is the impending closure of an apartment building near Nome and Colfax. City of Aurora and Mayor Mike Kaufman said that the unprecedented action by the city is the result of years of dangerous code violations. Some of Kaufman's fellow conservatives in Aurora City Council, which is elected in nonpartisan municipal elections, said that they don't believe the city. Okay. We have a Venezuelan gang problem that has taken over a number of our apartment complexes, Aurora City Council member Steve Sundberg said in a Thursday meeting. Okay. All right. Can you prove that? I mean, I'm not saying it's not happening. I just, if you're going to throw that out there, tell us what that looks like. Document what that looks like. I mean, who's running it then? Which part of the gang, which gang leader is running it? The claim has been widely promoted by anonymous far-right social media accounts. See how they work that in there? Everybody is anonymous. Everybody is far-right. That throws out this idea that, hey, you know what? Maybe there's gang activity because we let millions and millions of people across the southern border with no vetting done whatsoever. Maybe that's happened. Oh, good Lord. They're all good people. They're all just really hardworking, good people. Well, a lot of them probably are. And a lot of them probably are at this apartment complex. But that doesn't mean that gangs still can't take over a low-end slumlord run building. I mean, let's be honest. Is this true? We don't know. Council members Stephanie Hancock and Danielle Zurinsky expressed similar concerns, rejecting assurances from Aurora Police and Mayor Kaufman that gang activity was being investigated. This is what we believe, Zurinsky said. Our opinions are not up for debate. Okay. All right. Hey, I hear you. This is what you think. This is what you know. This is your truth. Going to go with it. This is our belief. The three of us believe that there is a gang problem, a huge gang problem, that apartment complexes in areas of our city are being taken over. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's true. I mean, they would be the ones to report it, right? Not a bunch of these people who are, from mutual aid trying to help the folks that are going to get kicked to the curb because the city says, oh, code violations. We can't have you living in these units. Code violations. It's like, okay, really? Okay, you're going to kick them out. Okay. All right. That's what you're doing. Kaufman said that Aurora police have recently formed a task force. We're going to read next. Jewell said that Aurora police are working with the state and federal law enforcement to determine which crimes might be tied to Trene Aragua. Interesting. So what you're saying is there's a chance. There's a chance that this is true. Oh, without evidence, huh? You're always going to have to, got to throw out that whole conservative thing because then that's how you try and get them to not believe it. Oh, those whacked out conservatives. Those wacky conservatives, they don't really know what they're talking about. Hey, wait a minute. A gang took over this building. Without evidence, you throw that out there. I'd say there's some evidence going on, right? Like the special task force. You wouldn't create a task force if this wasn't happening in some way, shape, or form, right? You just wouldn't. I mean, let's be reasonable. This is not a shenanigan event. This is one of those, hey, this is probably happening, but let's keep it on the down low. Let's call it a task force. Let's get that task force going. Aurora City Council officials say an apartment complex in Nome Street is closing due to code violations. Council members allege there's more to the story. Isn't there always? The Aurora Police Department said it has assigned detectives to a special task force to investigate Venezuelan gangs' connections to the city. Is there a reason why Trene Aragua wouldn't be in Aurora, Colorado? Is there a reason? We know they're everywhere else. Is there a reason why they wouldn't be in Aurora? You've already got a big population of Venezuelans, right? 4,000 of them gathered because they were worked up about the presidential deal in Venezuela. The president's still holding on. I won the election. And he didn't. He just didn't. He's just rigging the election because he wants to stay in power and continue just abusing that country, his own country. The announcement came during a city council public safety meeting on Thursday. We have stood up a task force specific to this group, said Aurora Police Department Acting Deputy Chief Chris Jewell. We're actively looking at who they are, what they're doing, how many there are, and what is the reality of the situation compared to what the other public information that's going on around out there is nationally. All right. Okay, so we're all looking at local, we're looking at national, we're looking at the whole thing. Okay. Task force, right? The gang, known as Trene Aragua, started out as a prison gang in Venezuela. It's been expanded throughout the Western Hemisphere. Last month, the Biden administration designated the gang as a transnational criminal organization. When Biden administration actually does that, that means you have a problem that is so bad that they can't avoid it. Kind of like, let me think of the other example here. Kind of like, running Kamala Harris instead of Joe Biden, because Joe Biden is so mentally deficient now with his dementia that he's not able to run for a second term. Kind of like that. Oh, this is really bad. Okay, let's go ahead and we're going to call it a multinational, transnational criminal organization. Let's run Kamala. Same thing. Same exact thing, right? So the Aurora Police Department is partnership with the Raven Task Force, 4 detectives, federal partners, yada, yada. We'll see what happens. Tenants of Aurora apartments forced to vacate city sites, code violations. Let's go with that because that's an easy out. Tenants of the Aurora apartment building have 8 days to vacate their units. It's a heated issue. Or unheated in the winter, as slumlords would typically do. The apartment management of 1568 Nome Street claims it's happening because of Venezuelan gang crimes. Well, okay. Let's play devil's advocate. You claim that the Venezuela gang has infiltrated. How do you prove that? How do you prove that? Well, that guy there's got a tattoo. He does too. Yeah, I think you just probably got to live there and recognize who the players are. Whether or not that's a thing, don't really know. I've seen no definitive proof this complex has been overtaken. Could there be some gang members living there that upset folks? Well, then that legit is a concern that it's been taken over. You know, when people are robbing people, when people are raping people, when people are stealing, when people are doing assault, all of those things have happened at this apartment complex. Does it mean it's been taken over? Not necessarily, but a lot of things point to the fact that maybe it has. Spokesperson for the city said instead of addressing the documented code violations, property owner CBZ Management has hired a team of attorneys and a public relations firm to fight the city on its decision. You know how many units these guys have, CBZ Management? Yeah, 99 here. It says they're out of town. They're an out-of-state slumlord. First off, we have a sign-off from the city, so therefore, I don't know what the city is talking about as it relates to violations because it's been signed off, an investor in the property said. We've got sign-off saying that they fixed all the problems. Maybe new ones have popped up, but they have, it sounds like, corrected issues in the past, and they've got the paperwork to prove it. Okay. All right. City spokesperson told Fox 31 that the issues range from rodent infestation to a lack of heat, electricity, sewage backup, trash pileup, just your standard stuff. Let's watch a little video on this bad boy. Let's see what we got here. Let's watch this one. They're going to quickly close the apartment complex. Now, they're saying that it's uninhabitable, but they're closing it really quickly. But then some people are saying this has been going on for years and years and years. Which one do you believe? Which one do you believe?
Well, the city of Aurora tells us they plan to shut down this apartment complex near Colfax and Peoria in 1 week. City officials say it's simply become too unsafe for people to live in. The residents here, many of them immigrants, tell us the management company has abandoned them. Mountains of trash piled up outside the Fitzsimmons Place apartments in Aurora.
So we're trying to get this trash removed.
Became too much for Shida Kais and her neighbors.
Because it's a lot of smell, a lot of flies. We have kids, they can get any kind of health problem.
They decided to hire someone on their own to remove it.
We've been trying to get in touch with the manager. He quit, and we have no manager.
She says property management not only let the trash pile up, they've let the complex fall apart. A problem residents first told us about last year.
We are families. You guys have a bunch of families in this place.
There's families here. There's babies, and they don't care. They're not doing anything to help.
But now they face another issue. The city says unless the problems are fixed, it will shut the property down. The city says it has documented substantial, long-standing, unresolved code violations and other poor conditions at the property for the last few years. Adding property management has failed to address the violations and have been uncooperative.
We're gonna have only 6 days to move out of here. We have no place to go.
CBZ, the property management company, admits its team has not been on site and says a Venezuelan gang is the reason. A PR firm the company hired sent us a statement it says was from an investor. We would like to be able to resume normal operations at our buildings, but we cannot do so under the threat of present and immediate danger against residents, staff, and management, the statement says.
I know it's been shootings here, but it's not because of people from here.
Shida says no matter what happens, it's people like her who will suffer.
Thank you so much.
In Aurora, Brandon Richard, Denver 7.
Now, the city says the violations that have led to this are separate from any criminal activity. A city spokesman says the city will notify tenants about its plans tomorrow. Residents will have until next Tuesday to move out.
What do you think is the reality here? It's probably a little bit of both, right? A little bit of both. The overriding factor, is it Trene Aragua? I mean, it certainly could be. Certainly could be. But I'd want to see a little more proof, because all we've basically heard are allegations that, hey, they're here, they're taking over. I mean, let's see. I would want to see just some more of, hey, this shooting here was between these two gang members. This has happened. When you've actually got, in that last story we heard, a resident of that complex, she's going to defend that complex because she doesn't want to have to move. This is her community. I get that. But if there is gang activity in there, then we need to know, because you need to hammer down on that, because otherwise that will just spread. And that's what a lot of folks don't want to admit, because if you admit that there is Trene Aragua in your community, how'd they get here? They're from Venezuela. Where have the Venezuelans been coming? They've been coming right up through that Darien Gap, up through Mexico, into the United States, just willy-nilly. Let the shenanigans begin. And again, there are plenty of Venezuelans that are good people, family-oriented people, but they're escaping exactly what we're talking about here, which is extreme violence, gang activity, and just overall shenanigans in Venezuela. Political instability, a president that just wants to keep on going. He's like, screw your voting thing. I'm president again, right? I mean, that's the struggle that you've got going on. So there's a lot on the line here, and it'll be interesting to see how this one turns out. Will the city actually drop the hammer and evict these residents from their community? It sounds like they will. I don't know. But does the property management, does the owner get an attorney involved and get some kind of estoppel to basically shut that down? Probably. Yeah. Any which way, make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, all that good stuff. And I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for joining. Bye for now.